My name is Elwin Veerkamp. The kids call me Uncle El. I grew up on the family ranch in Gold Hill. Today, you know it as Wakamatsu. Education was always important to our family. They made sure me, my brothers and sisters, all got through high school. In fact, all 4 of my sisters became teachers in this area. My family was involved in cattle and agriculture around here for 150 years. My grandparents, Francis and Louisa, bought the Wakamatsu tea and silk colony after the Japanese left. As a boy, cattle were always a big part of my life. I had great pride in how I treated them. Some people say I like cattle more than people. Some cases might be true. My first herd was made up of mixed breeds. That's all my pocketbook would allow. My dad taught me how to breed those mongrels with Hereford bulls. In a few years, I had a respectable herd of beef cattle. I took my first herd to the high country in 1938. The herd grew over the years, and I eventually found a more permanent summer home near the Rubicon River in near Hellhole Reservoir in Placerville County. Today, you're going to join me on Uncle El's Spring Cattle Drive, the year 1966. But before we set out on the trail, let me explain why a cattle drive is even necessary. It starts with what you see right here on the ground between the headstones: dead grass. Grass is the mainstay of a cattle's diet. In most places of the world, including here, summertime is just too dry to sustain a herd of cattle. Europeans have always moved their herds up to the mountains. My parents emigrated here from Germany not my parents, but my family emigrated here from Germany in the early 1800s, and they brought that knowledge with them. Today, most ranchers take their herds to the high country by truck or train. For almost 40 years, from 1938 to 1977, I did it the old-fashioned way, by hoof. We went up in the late spring, and we came back in the fall. You know, those cattle drives in many ways defined me. They provided connections. Connections to the land my people settled, to the food I ate, and to family and friends. Connections that a gruff old guy like me might not otherwise experience. Okay, let's get back to 1966. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know how to handle yourself on a horse. But this is the first cattle drive for a lot of you young'uns, and I promised your mama I'd get you home in one piece. So listen up. This is going to be 4 days of the hardest work you've ever done. It's dirty, it's loud, it's dangerous. Keep your eyes and ears open. By God, you're going to get yelled at. That's okay. Just do what you're told and we'll be fine. We have spent weeks rounding up, vaccinating, dehorning, and belling these cows. They're now used to being around people, which keeps them calm on the cattle drive. A small part of the herd is right here in Gold Hill. Most of it is pastured up at my cousin Fred's place in Garden Valley. We'll pick them up tomorrow along with the rest of the cowhands. Okay, 3 things, guys. Find your cattle. Spread out on the perimeter. You've all got your responsibilities. Keep those cows back as we head down Cold Springs Road. At the bottom of the hill on the left is the Vineyard House. Smell those chicken and dumplings? On the right is the old Protestant cemetery. That's where Francis and Louisa are buried. We're taking this herd right into Coloma. Keep those cows off of Highway 49 until the all clear signal is given. By law, cattle do have the right of way. And most folks in rural areas understand this. But out here on a state highway, anything can happen. Most of it bad. So vigilance is the key. Do you see how the lead cows are already starting to take charge? They're veterans of prior cattle drives. They know where they're going. The other cows sense that and follow. And they'll follow those lead cows into Coloma and turn right, and we're going to cross right over the steel bridge. Feel it sway under the cow's weight? The view of the American River from the bridge is quite a sight. By God, I love this country. We're headed straight up Mount Murphy Road. Keep them off Bain Road now. When we get to the top of Mount Murphy, we're going to turn right on Marshall Grade Road. Fred's place is coming up on the left near Garden Valley. That's where the herd will spend the night. Unlike the cowboys of old, we bring a few pickup trucks along to take you home at night so that you can sleep in your own beds. You guys did good today for rookie cowhands, but tomorrow the journey really begins and it's a lot harder. So get a good night's sleep. You're gonna need it. Day one. I hear some grumbling about it still being dark outside, but listen, we've got over 300 cows and calves to move, so get over it. We're on the east end of Garden Valley and we're headed up Black Oak Mine Road. Now, cattle always like to take the shortest distance between point A to point B. Most folks along our route understand this. Some people don't see the nostalgia in a bunch of cows trampling their lawns or making a snack of their flower garden. One year we had a guy out here guarding his petunias with a shotgun. Highway 193 is just ahead. Once we've got traffic stopped, we'll start to move the herd across. Keep a sharp lookout. Thankfully, this is the last main road we have to cross today. Keep those cows out of the road, by God! Remember, traffic makes cattle nervous, and nervous cattle are hard to destroy. Fortunately, we're on back roads the rest of the afternoon. Balderson Corral is coming up just ahead. It's an old Forest Service staging area on Wentworth Springs Road. Am I right about Wentworth Springs Road? Where the cattle will spend the night. Most of you will be home in time for dinner. Day two. Today we've got a couple of miles to travel on busy Wentworth Springs Road before reaching the Rubicon River. Again, traffic is a concern, and again, I'm jumpy. Anytime cars are competing with cattle and cowhands, it can be dangerous for all concerned. So keep a sharp lookout and watch out for logging trucks. Those old cowboy movies always had a stampede, and a stampede is a genuine threat. One backfire or loud motorcycle could set these cattle off and we'd be at Uncle Tom's cabin before you know it. Our destination is the Rubicon River, which lies in a deep, rugged canyon just north of here. Move them out! Driving cattle like this is a balancing act. The whole idea is to get the cows up to higher pastures and fatten them up. Now, a 3 or 4 day forced march uphill might not seem like the best way to do that. To most cattle ranchers, it's not. It's too far, too steep, too hard on the cattle, and too hard on the ranchers. But by God, it works for me. I'm good at it. All right, let me back up a moment. My ranch is closer to the mountains than most. I've found some summer pastures that are fairly close. I stay off the main roads, mostly, and the elevation gain is kept to a minimum. There's only one steep climb, and that's coming up later today. The Forest Service maintains a narrow suspension bridge over the Rubicon for cattle and hikers. It's just narrow enough to allow 2 horses or 2 cows. And in crossing that narrow bridge, it's very tense. Those cows have to trust us. That trust has to be earned. I spend all year with these cows earning that trust. In most years, we can get the herd across the river through the bridge in about an hour. On a bad year, there's no bridge. Some of you might be old enough to remember the Hellhole Dam failure back in 1964. We had a ton of rain. It took out the partially built cofferdam and sent a surge of destruction down the canyon, taking out the bridge and everything else in its path. That year, with no bridge, we had no choice but to take the herd through the river. Thankfully, Placer County was kind enough to limit its water release for us, but it was still dicey. The following spring, the Forest Service built a single-file trail bridge 30 feet above the Rubicon River. Morris and I covered it with fresh cow dung and dirt so it would smell familiar to the cows. The trick was getting the lead cows onto the bridge. Once we did and they started to cross, the rest of the herd dutifully followed. The climb out of the canyon is long, narrow in places, and so dusty. At times, you can't see 10 feet. We'll take a break and have a quick lunch at Dad Young's Spring before finishing the climb out of the canyon. Oh, look, there's Morris in his four-wheel drive pickup waiting for us with sandwiches and cold drinks prepared by my wife, Helen. You don't know hungry until you're trail hungry. The rest and hardest part of the day is behind us. Just up ahead, Ralston's Corral. Just up ahead is Ralston Corral, another old staging area where the cattle will spend the night. Once they're settled, we will move on to an old log cabin that I rent on the McCulloch Ranch, where we'll be joined by family and friends for our traditional feast. My nephew Jim and his wife Barbara come up here most years. Their two boys, Doug and Brian, are turning into good cowhands. They've been with us since Garden Valley. Day 3. Today we have about 15 miles to travel, so we need to get a move on. We'll stop for lunch at Blacksmith Flat. There's plenty of shade, a cool canyon breeze, and a grassy meadow for the cattle. It's a little slice of heaven. Once we finish lunch, we'll continue on the Ralston Trail to Ramsey Crossing, where the cattle will spend the night before being moved to their summer pastures. Day 4. We've reached the last day, and it's another tough one. Today we're going to split the herd and take them to their separate grazing areas. If they get half a chance, they'll wander up some old logging road or disappear in some tempting meadow and hide out. Strays are a real problem. Not only are they valuable, but the Forest Service requires a strict accounting of each cow's whereabouts. We have to chase every stray down. It can take hours or even days. Morris and I will be up here all summer. We keep an eye on the cattle in between fishing and hunting. In most years, we start back in late September. The cows are eager to go. It's getting cold and the grass is gone. When it gets time to go, sometimes those lead cows can take off on a dead run. Looks like some of them may have already gone. We'll be home in 3 days. Thank you for joining me today. Those years on the cattle drive were some of the best years of my life. Family and friends of all ages helped out. Many, like you, were first-timers. I tried to show them, and you, what it's like out there. It's not something you soon forget. I'd like to think those cattle drives helped turn our kids into strong men and women. Those kids have made Veerkamp a household name around these parts. They've given a lot back to their community over the years. I'd like to think those cattle drives had something to do with that. Thank you. Brian.